I just wish all coaches at least have like the awareness of it, right?
Yeah.
Just so that they know, oh, because you can totally, especially if it depends on, you know, the energy type of your clients, but you can totally condition them without even knowing, right? Especially with your authority. If you're like, for me, I'm ego authority, and it's really easy for me to like, oh, my coach is getting excited, I'm gonna get like, I'm excited too, like, you know, I just fall into that. And then after the conversation is over, I'm like, oh, I'm actually not that excited about it.
Welcome to the Wild Rose. I'm Shona Lee.
And I'm Paula Ivy. Join us for conversations about how we don't do stuff normal.
How we choose the wild roads of life. We want to show you all that's fun and possible, building businesses, making money,
navigating relationships and parenting, things we nerd out about,
and running at our wildest dreams.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
We are always awkward at the start of our podcast because it's just like, hi, we're here. So welcome, Michelle Wong, the most beautiful Michelle Wong I've ever met, the only Michelle Wong I've ever met.
Okay, that was awkward.
Yeah. Welcome, Michelle Wong. Let's begin. We actually have an awkward but fun question that we ask all our guests just to get to know them. Actually, I forget what the question was, Paula. What was
I know what the question was.
See, do you remember?
Shona, you're very unprofessional at this. Okay.
Yeah, I am.
Michelle Wong, before we go into what you do and how you do it and all of the things, we would like to ask a question to the group. We call it #awkward question time. We ask a question. Like the answer could be embarrassing and awkward, or it could be hilarious, or it could be quite serious. Like, this is the magic of these questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So the question we thought of asking today with you here is, what was your favorite album in your teen years?
Oh, Sarah McLachlan.
Oh,
Surfacing.
Wow.
Remind me who Sarah McLachlan is.
She's a Canadian singer, songwriter, and she sang Angel, Building a Mystery.
Yes.
I loved, like, I listened to her nonstop, and I actually listened to, it was just like, I listened to her so much that it was just in the background. And I remember like her album, I wrote my college essay, like my entrance essays to her. Like it was in the background while I wrote.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
She's
That's
deep.
so cool.
She is. So we're live, right? Are we officially live and recording?
Yeah,
we're officially live.
We're officially
Hey,
live.
everybody.
People will be hearing this.
Yep. It's so good. Like we said, we're the professional unprofessionals, right? Like, you know, this is what we love about our podcast. It's just like, whatever happens.
I love it. This is my jam.
Cool.
So
what was
Shona,
yours, Paula? Oh, you're gonna ask me.
What? Oh, I was, but I'll go first. It's fine.
Okay, you go.
So I can't actually decide, because I had many that I loved in my teen years. And my top albums that I listened to would have to be Pearl Jam, the one that had the camel on the front. That was the soundtrack to my teen years. And then also there was a band called Local H, if anybody remembers them.
Nope.
And their album, like, I still listen to that album. It's amazing. And it's so funny. They had a song called Eddie Vedder, which I think might have been one of their most famous songs. And yeah, also Nirvana, Nevermind, of course. Like, that was
it's hard to choose, isn't it? Because that was a great album. That was so grungy. Cool.
You were deep,
I
Michelle.
can see that. Yeah.
Well, I actually think Pearl Jam and Nirvana, they're deep too. It's funny because the Pearl Jam song, what is it? Ledbetter? Yellow Ledbetter? Is that it?
Yeah.
I play it on repeat now. I was like in high school, I was one of those, like, I'll listen to music from the radio, and I liked Green Day, I liked Wonderwall, like not the Wonderwall's not the group. Oasis, that's right.
Yeah. Oasis.
And but I never really like got their albums. I like, for me, when I was it was mostly like, oh, I like Sarah McLachlan. Like, I don't know. And I listened to like Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
Oh, she was amazing.
But now, as an adult, I like the alternatives too.
Yeah.
Now I'm cool, So
I
You
think
are
everybody
cool.
thinks that they weren't cool in high school though. They were like, oh, I was a dork. I liked this.
yeah,
liked
I was
that.
such a dork. I kind of still am, but
So am I. So am I.
I think we're all dorks.
We
Just our
are.
perception of other people as to whether we think they're cool or not. But I think our own personal opinions of ourselves is that we're complete dorks.
Yeah.
Like
Definitely. Definitely.
All right, Shona.
Yeah.
What was yours?
So my early teenagehood, I loved Roxette. I absolutely loved Roxette.
Yeah.
That was cool. I played that. Oh, you don't know Roxette,
no.
Michelle?
What?
Oh, wow.
Is
They
this
have like a million songs.
Yeah.
maybe so I'm good with songs. Sometimes I don't know artists.
Belt
Now
out some
that-
Roxette.
She's got the look.
And she goes, na 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 na
Na
na
na na na na na na na na na. She's got the look.
No.
No. If you don't know
Shona,
that,
I don't think we should start a band.
no. Oh, funny. So there was that, and there was like, I am like, this is the thing, right? Is I love that you cannot define a person by their musical taste, but like there was that and Guns N' Roses and Red Hot Chili Peppers for me.
Oh yeah.
They were my staples. And it was just like there was no definition of what genre I loved, and then I'd listen to the Dixie Chicks. It's
Oh yeah. I used to love Peter Andre.
yeah.
So
Cool.
like that doesn't really go with grunge.
No, that's right. Oh, how funny. And it's like Christina knew I'd listen to her, and then I'd listen to Beatles, and it's just nuts how diverse, but I love it.
Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
George Michael.
Yeah.
Like there's some that people just go, oh yeah, nah, not that. Jesus, Shona, come on. Sarah McLachlan. I actually did download that Angel song. That was a beautiful song.
I love singing to it, but not for the podcast.
All right, take it away, Michelle.
Yeah. Well, tell us about your journey, Michelle. Like you have been in 3 different countries in the last what is it? 2 months, 3 months?
Yeah, well, it's so funny because the last time I was internationally traveling, it was back in 2015. So it's been a crazy long time ago, over 6 years ago. And that was my Bali trip. That was like, I was 2 months in Bali back in 2016. And then I stayed within the US mostly, and maybe back to Canada to see my family. And so now 2021, finally, I was like, I'm out, and then so I went to Mexico. And Mexico was impromptu kind of, because I was waiting for Bali to let me in. And then now I'm in Bali. Yeah, it's crazy to think that I've been traveling for almost 3 months now. The first time I was in Bali, 2 months felt like forever. Like it felt like, whoa, 2 months. And now I'm almost hitting 2 months and it's like nothing.
Wow. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
how long are you planning to stay there?
That, you know what? So my visa, I can renew it. And I could be here for up to 6 months. But with the current situation, because right now things are in lockdown and things are tightening up, I'm going to play it by ear. And I was like, well, what else is open that I can travel and see? And I might end up just visiting my family in Canada for a bit and then travel around Canada. Yeah. And then maybe, because Greece is open, but Greece, when I read their list, they're not, Indonesia isn't on their list of, hey, we're open to you.
Oh, okay.
So I'll probably go back another to Canada.
Yeah. Oh, this sounds amazing. And the beauty of all this whole situation is that you, like, Michelle is a human design, I would classify as an expert. She's phenomenal. Paula and I have both worked with Michelle. You have created a business where you can just travel the world when you choose to. You can go live wherever you choose to and still facilitate and still have this amazing business that you run. How does that feel? Like, was it always in your dream to do that? Is that, was that always a Michelle dream?
Yeah, always. And it's still like, it still hasn't hit me yet. It's just like, oh yeah, is this really happening? And then, like, it's funny because I have a call this afternoon and I had like one yesterday. I'm like, oh, this is actually happening. Yeah, I've always wanted to be a free bird and have a business while I'm abroad and traveling, and just it doesn't even have to be traveling, just like having that freedom. That was so important to me. And my background most of it has been in corporate and doing things that were more local. Yeah. But now I just feel like, I mean, there's beauty of local and there's so much more freedom and flexibility of online.
Yes.
And as we can see with this past year and two.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been crazy. And it's really helped, not only entrepreneurs and people that want to work for themselves, but also big companies and things rework the way that they do things. I think it's really, really beautiful. So for people who don't know, what is human design? Because I first came across it like a few years ago and I got my chart done and then I went, okay, cool, I'm a generator. I don't know what that is. And then I kind of pushed it aside. And then a few years later, I met you and a couple of other human design experts. And I was like, okay, so this is actually like a whole situation. And it's so fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. So tell us your experience with human design, what it is, what you love about it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So human design is a system that really gives you a map of your energy. That's kind of like your soul's map of your energy, like your energy. It's like what you are here in this world, what your consistent life force energy is, the strengths that you have consistent access to, and then how you take on the environment, right? And those around you, and what you're here to learn, and the wisdom that you're here to receive and learn and grow. So that's kind of like the short the short esoteric, and it includes all types of modalities: astrology, the I Ching, quantum science, the chakras. Chakra in kind of like as energy centers, but in human design there's 9 energy centers. So there's like 2 more, and then in 2027 there's going to be another 2 more. Yeah, so human design as a system is, for me, I was like, actually, when I first heard about it, I was like, because I was into astrology and I still love astrology, but at that time I was like, no, I do not need another system. Like, I'm diving into astrology. I don't need something else. But then I'm always curious.
Yes.
So I was like,
same.
Well, I'm just going to learn what I am, just kind of know what I am. And then I punch in my data. You just need your birth time, your place of birth, typical birth stuff.
Yeah.
And then it spit something out and I had no idea. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm a manifester. Okay, cool. I'm meant to initiate. Okay. And then anger is my not self. And I was like, I have no idea what any of this means, but I can relate to some of like the things I'm reading.
Yeah.
And then the more I kind of tuned in, I was like, oh, well, this is starting to make sense, because like we're talking about our aura, our energy. Yeah. And the more I tuned in, I'm like, oh, this isn't everybody. Like this is like me.
Yes. That was one of my big things. I was like, oh, so this is just like me. It kind of opened me up to like, this isn't true for everybody. Things that are so normal to ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And things started to make more sense, and just like my own experience and relating to other people. And even before human design, I always said to myself, like, I just feel like my energy kind of pushes people away somehow. They don't know how to read me. I always felt that. And then when I read the manifestor, I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly what I've been saying.
But that's
And
me.
so like, yeah, like it just validated my experience, and then also gives ways in which you can start to like work with your energy more. And with human design, I mean, it can be kind of like tricky because it's all about following your strategy and your authority with human design. And authority in human design is how to make decisions that for you to come back to yourself. And so that's their tool, like follow your strategy and authority. Everything else will come into play when you do that. And so it's really about embodiment, which is both frustrating and beautiful, right? And that's one of my pieces with human design. A lot of people come to me wanting the answer, like, give me what I need to know to be successful in life and business. And then I think they're a little bit disappointed sometimes when it's like, no, you got to do the work. You got to embody, you got to integrate what I'm sharing with you. It's not like a quick fix. You're like 1 hour with me isn't going to solve everything. It might just lead you into more confusion, but I think that's the beauty of it. Cause then it helps you to come back to what's true for you. And it's a journey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that you've said that it's a journey, because it is a big thing to retain. There's a lot of information to retain, but also a lot of information to surrender to or embody. Like it's an awareness of yourself that you didn't realize, like you said before. It's just like, oh my God, that is me. This is exactly what's happening. But to change your conditioning around it, and when you used to fight that part of you, and now you need to integrate it, and not integrate it, it's already there, but it's like you surrender to it, embrace it's the word, but embrace that part of you now instead of fighting it. It feels better, and it's less, takes up less energy to do that. But it's also, we have some conditioning there that is to fight it. So it's not like you said, it's not a quick fix. It's not overnight process of, okay, now that I know who I am, there's some work to do, but it feels great. It feels nice to do the work. It feels nice to embody and know exactly who you are in this human design world. That's how I feel about it anyway.
I love that. I love that you feel like it's nice.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Sometimes I find it hard.
It is
like,
hard.
Like, I don't want to inform. I just want to do what I want to do. That's very manifestor, but like, yeah, it depends on the energy type, but yeah.
Because one of the biggest things that I took away from like having my reading done with you was that when I get too in my head about things, when I think about things too much, and I haven't, my authority is sacral, so I get like a gut yes or no, and then when I get a gut yes or no and I act on it then and there, that feels really good for me. But then I was always taught, from schooling and, as a young child and all of that sort of stuff, was that like, I could feel that that's my natural way of working and doing things, is like, it feels good. Yep, let's go. I just jump in. And it was trained, through schooling and stuff, to think about things. Are you sure that's what you want to do? Have you thought about, what if, and blah, blah, and all these things. So learning that from my reading with you, and one of the things that you said that stuck with me was like, if you're in your head, think of it like mind control. Like, you're supposed to feel it, and if it's like, go, it's like, that's. And I'm like, yeah, it always feels really good when I do that. When I get too in my head, I'm like, oh, hang on, is that the right thing to do? Maybe this person won't like it, or maybe this isn't right for everybody, or maybe if I do this, then blah, and I get too heady. Like, I can't make decisions from that space at all. It kind of like blocks my ability to make a choice. And then if I do somehow make a choice and I move forward, it doesn't feel right, and I feel unsure, and I second guess myself the whole way through. And I can't get it to land. So that for me was really beautiful to, just understand that that's okay. It's not that I'm being, I used to get, you're a bull at a gate when I was don't be a bull at a gate. Stop and think. Don't just do stuff. Stop and think about it first. And yeah, for me, that kind of kills the inspiration. It kills the creativity, it kills the joy that I had to begin with. That just knowing that it's okay, because that's actually how you're designed to make decisions. That's actually how you're designed to follow things that feel good for you, is to make that go, okay, cool. It feels good. I'm going to go. I don't know all the steps. I don't know all the pros and the cons. I just know that my sacral is saying yes right now. So I go.
Yeah.
And not actually, trying to tell myself that, oh, it's irresponsible or it's not safe to do that. I've got to think about things first. That was a really big thing that I got out of that. And I mean, of course, there are things that I need to consider with, having a family and all of those things. But for, particularly for creating things in my business, when it feels good to act on that and not to think about things too much.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things, especially as a generator, and you're responding moment to moment.
Yeah.
Like that's all part of it. And I just love that. It just gave you the like, oh yeah, this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like with generators, and this includes manifesting generators, it's meant to be more, I would say, in flow, because your aura is so big and magnetic. It's just like, it's one of the quote unquote, like, it's meant to be easy for you.
Isn't that like a thing that we start to learn about human design? You're like, yeah, but it's easier for this design because they get to do it this way. But it's easier for this design. And you always think that your design is not the easiest because you're doing
so funny
in that design.
Yeah. It's always like, it is. And I feel like with, like, you don't have to overcomplicate things, right? Like with generators, I think like having that sacral authority. I mean, not every generator, including man-gens, have sacral. Some have are emotional, but it really is like just following what the gut says. The thing is, like, do you trust yourself? That's, because so many of us have been taught to not trust ourselves and to listen to the outer authorities.
That's so interesting, because my husband is also a generator, but he's emotional authority. So we actually did a couples reading with you, Michelle, which was amazing, because you went into how each of our energies activate one another. Right. And it was just so beautiful the whole time, because I was telling my husband, Brennan, about human design, and I'm like, it's this thing and blah, blah, blah. And he was just like, okay. Yeah, cool. Because like whenever I talk about this sort of stuff, he's like, yeah, that's cool. Like he's not really into a lot of this sort of stuff. But when we had the reading together afterwards, he was like, then Michelle said this. And he's like, that's so true. I can see that the way that I work and with my colleagues. And it was more than, us working together. He could see how those energies were playing out with like our kids and his work and all of the things. And just knowing the difference between an emotional authority and a sacral authority, they're very different ways of processing, like making decisions and things like that, because I'm sacral and my husband's, emotional. My daughter's also emotional, but she's a projector, which is a slightly different. But just knowing that both my husband and my daughter have an emotional authority means that I don't go to them with like an idea of like, hey guys, let's travel around Australia in a caravan. And I'm like a sacral, yes, like let's go now, let's make this happen, let's do stuff. Whereas my husband's like, okay, let me feel into this first, because he's got to go through a whole thing, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I love that. It's like, I'm so excited. Let's go now. Hold on. I got to feel it out.
Because emotional, they have to go through the wave of feeling into it before they get to a point where they can comfortably make a decision. Is that right?
It's all the feels.
Yeah, that's the ideal of like riding your emotional waves so that you have more clarity. And those with emotional authority, they have the most clarity when they're making a decision. They can see it from more angles and they got to feel it out. And they're aiming for about 75% clarity. It's never going to be 100%.
Yeah, because I find that when I do, when my husband and I do talk about things, about decisions that we're going to make together, that if I've got an idea, or if something's come through me and I'm like, oh yes, that would be amazing, I know to present that with him and then go, take your time, let me know how that feels, instead of me standing there with my hands on my hip going, is it a yes or a no? Because I know that's how I work. And even though my energy is like, oh, I just need a decision from him because I need to not know if we're getting excited about this or if we're trying something else. But I know that I've got to go, okay, Paula, breathe. You've given it to him. He will come back to you when he knows. And
it's got to be it just makes your relationships and your family unit run better, right? Because this is it, for you guys as a couple to know that about each other, that's gonna stop so much, loggerheads. But even as a mom, knowing about your daughter's a projector, my Indy's a projector as well, and just knowing that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, because it's a retaining the information thing, but it's the projectors, they use 20% energy, they're full on, and then they need lots of rest. Is that correct?
That's manifestors.
Oh, that's manifestors. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just scrap that whole thing. So
yeah. So tell us about projectors. What's the main thing about projectors?
Yeah, with projectors, they need rest as well. It's just that their rest, they can actually plan out their rest a little bit more. There's a little bit more consistency to them.
Right.
And what's different with projectors is their aura is it kind of funnels from, and they can, basically it's a projector, right? It's like a light on a screen. That's their energy. It's like a beacon of light, and they can see into your soul. They can see, they can. And this is why with projectors, it's their strategy is waiting for the invitation, because it's not comfortable being seen unless it's invited, right? It's unless we're inviting a projector to share their wisdom with us. Otherwise, if they just jump in without the invitation, it'd be this is really uncomfortable and it's not welcomed. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Both of my kids are projectors. So I see that with both of them, but that's so powerful to know, because it's kind of shifted the way that I communicate with them. I ask them a lot of questions and their opinions on things. Whereas I know that, and especially for my son, it says that he doesn't, he's undefined with his authority, which I don't understand what that means.
Oh, he's none? Does it say none?
None. Yeah. He doesn't have any.
Oh, then he's a mental projector. So basically below the throat, let me think. Yeah. So it's either his throat it depends. Maybe his throat up is defined, but everything below his throat is definitely undefined.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen his chart, but it might be he's connected from just his crown to his ajna.
Yeah.
Just those two, the top bits.
Yeah.
Are defined. Or maybe his throat is connected to his ajna. It depends, but that basically means he has to, I think it's one of the harder authorities, because there is a processing, but at the end of the day, it is helpful to what is it that feels good for me in this decision making? But because he's undefined in everything else, it takes a little bit more time to okay, what actually is mine? Because there's a lot of absorption from the external, and he has to go through his own processing with that.
Yeah, because I find that if he's trying to make a decision, and if we give him too many options, or we say you could go with this because, or you could go with this because, and he makes a decision based on how we feel about it, rather than himself, that when we've done the thing or we've picked the thing and he then goes, hey, no, this is not what I wanted, he that's when he gets really mad. He will lose it, and he'll make us go over and retrace our steps and do it again. I mean, he's 5 now, and I've noticed this pretty much since his whole lifetime, that if something's played out and he felt like he wasn't in control of what happened, or the decisions around what happened, the direction of it and that sort of thing, he would make us, like, he'd yell at us to stop and let's do it again. And that was really interesting to learn, because I didn't know much about his authority, and I thought that might have had something to do with it. But what I could pick up from like what I had read was that if he feels influenced with a decision that he's made, it doesn't sit well. And I think his mine's frustration, and I think his
bitterness.
That's what it is. And I was like, oh, he can hold a lot of bitterness. And I'm like, that for a small child, I was like, how does a child have so much bitterness coming out of their body? But it was kind of like, oh, I sort of pieced it together, and I was like, if he feels like the decision was not his, he then gets really bitter about it, and he's like, that's not right. Like, I thought it was right for a second, but it's not right. And it's so beautiful, because, you know, before I sort of, you know, dove into the human design and got my children's charts done as well, and realized, oh, they're like projectors. They're very different energy to my husband and I. It's actually opened up my, you know, my patience with them, and actually witnessing what's happening for them, rather than they're not doing what I asked them to do, let me discipline them, or let me, like, you know, I mean, I've never been like somebody who hits their child like that kind of discipline, but like, you know, oh, if you're not going to do this, then this is going to happen, like sort of raise my voice and yell, which is my, you know, natural thing to do, because I was yelled at, you know, when I was a kid. That's the way that you get heard. It's just how I was like, you know, growing up, that's what happened. And I found myself doing the same thing. And I'm like, I don't want to be a parent that yells to be heard. I don't want to be a parent that has to take things away in order for their kids to do something that you need them to do. I'm like, I want to understand how I can communicate in a way where they understand the importance of something, but also feel like it's, you know, feels good for them as well. Not just, oh, I have to do it because mum wants me to do it, but it to be something that feels like it is something that feels good for them as well. So it was really beautiful to understand that they process things very differently, and the way that they work and their energy is different to what mine is, because, you know, as a generator, I'm like, yeah, okay, let's just get this done. This needs to be done. We'll just get it done, and then we can rest. It's all good. We'll rest after we've gotten done. Like, that's my energy. That's my natural thing. If there's stuff to be done, we'll just get it done and then we'll rest. Whereas, yeah, I can see with my kids with the energy thing, if I push them too hard to do too much, they get very tired. They get very disconnected, and they're like, I don't want to do anything, and I can't do anything. And you can just see it. And I already see it with schooling as well, that especially with my daughter, who's going 5 days a week now, that she'll come home from school some days and she'll just be wrecked. She can't do anything.
Exhausted.
She's been focusing all day. So yeah, often with the homework and stuff, I'm like, don't even worry about it. We don't have to do it. You rest. What would you like to do? How can we recharge you? So yeah, it's really interesting to see different dynamics in a family as well.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Go
ahead, Shan.
No, I was going to say, like, it's got to help. That's what I mean. It's just like understanding. And obviously I need to understand the charts and more so with my children and stuff, and just how they're becoming adults and how they work in the world. But it's got to have, it's just like an amazing, like you said, the dynamics, P, like it's, you know, it's got to be a much calmer existence to be able to understand each other this way.
Yeah, I just feel like the younger, like the more you can know your child, or the sooner, right?
Yeah.
We can know our kids and our own human design, just like there, it makes it like, oh, I get it now. And then let's navigate things differently. Because like you said, Paula, like your authority with sacral, it can totally impose on their authority, right? It can totally influence them, especially if your his authority is, you know, hierarchically, like it's just easier to take on yours, right? Because it's there's a hierarchy of authorities where it's like, oh, like it's easy for me with ego manifester, if I'm around a lot of sacrals, I'll start like without knowing, I will start to be like, oh, I'll be conditioned to make decisions like you all, like, you know what I mean? Cause it's like, I'm absorbing your energy and like, okay, yeah, that feels good. Let's do it.
Yeah.
When that might not be how I'm really meant to make decisions,
Yeah. What are the other ones?
There's emotional, sacral, splenic, which is your instinct, ego. There is self-projected, the one that your son's, the mental projector, environmental projector, or none. And then there's no authority, which is if you're a reflector. It's not no authority, but it's a 28-day lunar cycle type of authority.
See, that's so interesting. And it's just so beautiful to be aware, like not only for your family dynamic of like, your friends and the people that you work with and like clients as well, to understand that not everybody works in the same way. And even though, I get, these instant yes or no feels in my body and I can, act on them, it's so beautiful to be aware that not everybody is like that. So especially, coaching clients or working with a coach or with teachers, with leaders, with parents, with children, all of the people around you, that it's just beautiful to take a breath. And if somebody doesn't agree, like jump on board and be like, yeah, let's go with this idea, Paula, straight away. Then I'm like, oh, okay, give them time to like feel it's not a no. If they're pausing, it's not a no. If they didn't give me an answer straight away, because that was my usual thing. I'm like, well, if they didn't say yes, it's a no. Like, you haven't said anything, so it must be a no. Oh, they didn't like my idea. I suck.
It's like, it's like that awkward, like, oh, this is like, no, they just need to wait it out.
Yeah.
I love it. It does take me longer to learn it. I don't know if that's an age thing or it's just busyness, but it does. I need to go over things. There's a lot, isn't there? Like there's a lot to absorb.
There is. And I feel like unless you want to, study and become a human design expert, I think just knowing your strategy and your authority and understanding how your energy works, that's all you really need. And then integrating it, right? I think that's it really. Everything else is gravy, because knowing it might not, it's like, okay, cool. It's just information.
Yeah. That's it. And that's why I love like getting the information from an expert like you who can really tap in and you can actually have one-to-one conversation and a recording of what your authorities are, what all of the things that is within your profile, right? Without it having to be without the Chinese whispers. That proverb, like the Chinese whispers, where it just like the messages, it gets passed on from someone that sort of knows it, then someone that sort of knows it, someone that sort of knows it. And then all of a sudden, like the example before, like with Indy being projected, I thought, just she needs to rest a lot. And that is Chinese whispers for me. It's just like that, and that's why I think working with someone like yourself to actually get that real core, like let's just really dive into this and know from the get-go how you work first, and then really establish that and then use it for how you want to use it, whether it be the dynamics in the home or whether it be with your clients. I know for certain that for me, learning this and just step by step learning it, that it has definitely helped with my coaching business for sure, 100%.
Yeah, I like that has, I just wish all coaches at least have like the awareness of it, right? Yeah. Just so that they know, because you can totally, especially if it depends on, the energy type of your clients, but you can totally condition them without even knowing, right? Especially with your authority. If you're like, for me, I'm ego authority, and it's really easy for me to like, oh, my coach is getting excited. I'm excited too. Like, I just fall into that. And then after the conversation is over, I'm like, oh, I'm actually not that excited about it.
Oh, that's funny.
What's ego authority?
I'm ego authority. So it's really around my heart's desires And it's like, it is, what is it that I want? Like, I get to be selfish. Like, this is what I want. I get to have it the way I want it. But
yeah,
it's not always clear. So it's really helpful for me to verbally process, to talk things out, and the whole basis of that is so that I can bypass my brain. Is like, I'll say, if I don't pay attention to what I'm actually saying, and if I just let myself speak unfiltered, because the way that my chart works is my heart is directly connected to my throat. And so if I give it the space, it'll come out.
That's so cool.
So beautiful.
I love it. And there's no right or wrong with this, right? Like, for anyone that has, like, for the first time and delving into and being interested about human design, there's no right or wrong. There's no hierarchy within it, is there really? It's just different ways of how people work, how they function, how their energy runs. And it's
yeah, that's one of the things that I love about it, because it shows, I mean, with human design, it's about the science of differentiation. So it's like, what makes you unique? And it removes the labels and the judgments of like, oh, this person's so negative, but maybe they're not actually negative. They're just meant, like, it's part of their energy of seeing what actually doesn't work. You know, that's an alignment with your chart. But it's easy for, you know, just like collective conditioning to be like, you have to be always high vibe and positive. And some people, they're not really, that's not how they're wired.
That's it.
Yeah. That's so true. And for people who, like myself, I feel like my natural instinct is to always look for the positive in things. And sometimes, like, there's been times through my life where people are like, Paul, just stop looking at like what is working and stop looking at the positive side. Like, this is actually happening. And me thinking like I'm just not even, you know, people think that I'm not aware of like what could go wrong or like what is happening that's bad about this situation. I'm like, that it's so interesting, because it's just being aware that that's me, and that, you know, some people aren't like that. And there's also, it comes at it from, you know, all angles. There's people that are, you know, having beef with peeps because they're like, you know, everybody's talking about this and they're, you know, bringing up all like the negative stuff and they're focusing on that. And then there's other people that are like, they're only positive. Like, you can't be positive all of the time. That's not a thing. But it feels like I'm not positive, obviously, 100% of the time. I do have moments where I'm like, this is crap, blah, 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 and all of that sort of stuff. But I know for me, when I feel really at home in my body, I don't focus on the negative things. I don't naturally do that. I love looking at what is great and what I can celebrate. So that's, you know, but that's helpful for me to understand that it's not my job to make other people feel like think that way too. Not that I, you know, would, but I think it sometimes gets a little bit confusing with people, especially when they're, you know, mentoring them or teaching them something, that there's this, okay, so this is how we do this. It's because we think positively about blah, blah, blah. And we, you know, especially when you talk about the law of attraction, like, if you think about the negative things, then you're going to create more of that. If you think only about the positive things, you're going to create more of that. So only think about the positive things. Whereas that doesn't sit like with everybody. But it can be more true for some people and a lot less true for other people. It's not that you're not great at, you know, manifesting or the law of attraction. It's just really what feels good for you for really unleashing your life force into this world. Like, that's what I see human design is, this beautiful way to understand what your life force is and to connect to it in a way that feels fully alive for you.
Yeah, that's a really great way to describe it. I mean, there's there's just parts of, like, there's, with human design, it's like, well, your energy is your energy and you have consistent access to it. So if you're being told to not be positive or not be negative when you know, there's a certain frequency that you carry, you just naturally gravitate to it anyway. And so it's just understanding how you know, how you're wired. And it's funny because I tend to be more optimistic as well. And it's like, I just remember like years ago, I was like, my best friend or a good friend of mine in high school, we were just talking and we were worried about like being late to this thing and missing the bus. It was like this whole thing. And then I said to her, well, what if we get there on time and then we have more time? And then she looks at me like, to me, that was like a problem suddenly. Like, what if we have way too much time and get there super early? And she looked at me and she was like, that's like the best case scenario, Michelle.
Exactly. I love your thinking though. I love your thinking.
But why wouldn't it? See, I'm sitting here going, yeah, but that could totally happen.
And then what are we going to do?
What are we going to do with all this time?
It's cool. I think, you know, like if you want to dive in and it's part of personal development, it doesn't necessarily have to, you know, be the only thing that you for personal development that you use, the only tool you use. I feel like it's up there for me. It's a beautiful way of understanding and being more aware of yourself. And dude, I love it. I love your work. I love your work in the world. It's just freaking phenomenal.
Yeah.
What?
Thank you.
Before we wrap this up though, Michelle, I wanted to ask one last question. What is your favorite thing about human design? Like since learning it and working with clients with it, like what is, you know, a part of the human design thing that really gets you excited and that you absolutely love?
Yeah, like the answer that came in so quickly is that it gives us our power back.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Absolutely.
That's the feeling.
There's nothing wrong with us.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's so it's confirming for me because it means that I don't have to fight with myself because I think I should be a certain way because of conditioning and also because of, you know, the people around you and their thoughts and their beliefs and things like that. That it can be how it feels good for me, but it also can be for them how. That's my son blowing a raspberry in my hand right now. That's what he thinks about.
That's what he thinks about that.
Yeah. It can be whatever it can be, you know, it can feel good for everybody and it doesn't have to look the same. It doesn't have to look the same.
Yeah, exactly. Nailed it.
Wow.
All right, Michelle, how can people find you?
Yeah, Instagram, michellewong.xo. It has the links, and Facebook, Michelle Wong Catalyst. That's my personal. Those are like probably the most easy ways. You can also DM me if you want to like learn more about human design and all of that and work together. So
yeah.
Amazing.
Get on it. My session was incredible, but it sounds like yours was too, P.
I've had 2 with Michelle. I'm obsessed.
Wow.
Thank you. I love you both.
Oh, we love you.
Thank you
You're
for coming on, Michelle. Amazing.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Wow,